If I die young, bury me in satin, lay me.
There's a song playing right now, somewhere in this country, at a funeral you don't know about. Somebody's holding a folded flag. Somebody's holding a hymnal. Somebody's holding their breath. And the song isn't a hymn.
On earth was trouble. Only
It's not scripture. It's country music. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. Some of the most requested funeral songs in America weren't written for funerals at all. One was written about a bus crash. One almost never got recorded because the artist himself thought it was too depressing.
on the memory of the dance we shared.
One was written by a man for a friend he'd lost, and he had to relive it every single time he sang it live. These are 10 country songs that have quietly become the soundtrack of American goodbyes. At gravesides, in fellowship halls, on car radios driving home from the hospital. And by the end of this list, you'll understand exactly why.
Take your place. Sometimes I want.
If you've ever sat in a pew and heard a steel guitar instead of an organ, you already know where we're going. Let's start the countdown.
He was all dressed up to go away.
Number 10, How Great Thou Art, Alan Jackson / Carrie Underwood.
Oh Lord, my God.
Picture a country church, folding chairs in the aisle because there aren't enough pews. Somebody's grandmother is up front in a pine box, and the pianist starts the opening bars of a hymn everybody in the room already knows by heart.
Then sings my soul.
That hymn didn't start in Nashville. It didn't even start in English. It began in 1885 as a Swedish poem, written by a man named Carl Boberg after he watched a thunderstorm roll across the countryside.
How great thou art.
And then clear into stillness. It crossed oceans, got translated, got rewritten, and by the time it landed in American gospel songbooks as How Great Thou Art, it had already survived a century of migration. Here's what most people don't realize.
Savior God to thee. How
This became one of the most recorded songs in American music history. Elvis Presley's version won him a Grammy. George Beverly Shea sang it at Billy Graham crusades in front of stadiums. And when Alan Jackson and Carrie Underwood each recorded their own country renditions,
and take me home. What joy.
they weren't reinventing the song. They were just the latest voices in a line that stretches back over 100 years. That's the twist. A song about staring at the vastness of creation and feeling small.
Humble adoration and their
Became the song families reach for when they're staring at a casket and feeling exactly that. Awe and grief, it turns out, sound a lot alike. But hymns aren't the only old songs country music turned into funeral standards.
How great thou art.
The next one didn't come from a church at all. It came from a Missouri farmhand who couldn't stop thinking about escape.
Then sings my soul, my Savior.
Number 9, I'll Fly Away, Albert E. Brumley.
When the book on my life.
There's a version of this song playing at a funeral in Kentucky right now, and another one at a funeral in Texas, and probably a dozen more you'll never hear about, because this might be the most recorded gospel song in American history. Albert E. Brumley wrote it in 1929.
To know I can hear every note sweet and clear when they sing.
And the story behind it is almost too plain to be dramatic. He was picking cotton on his family's farm, humming an old secular tune to himself about a man escaping prison. And it got him thinking about a different kind of escape. The soul leaving the body behind. He didn't sell the song for years. When he finally did, in 1932, he sold it for next to nothing, the way most songwriters did back then. He had no idea what he'd just handed the world. I'll Fly Away ended up everywhere.
Sing in the garden for me. When they sing in the garden.
Bluegrass festivals, Southern Baptist hymnals, the soundtrack of "O Brother, Where Art Thou?" It's sung at more American funerals than almost any song ever written, and it barely gets talked about outside the genre because it's not really considered a hit. It's considered a tradition.
I'm walking with thee. Let them know I can hear.
That's the strange thing about funeral songs. The biggest ones are rarely chart toppers. They're just the songs that never stopped being sung. Speaking of songs that refuse to die, our next entry comes from the same tradition, and from the same movie soundtrack that brought old-time gospel roaring back into the mainstream. Number 8. Angel Band. Traditional, popularized by the Stanley Brothers.
Slip back to childhood, to the time.
Somewhere in Appalachia, over 150 years ago, a preacher named Jefferson Haskell wrote a poem about dying, about angels arriving to carry a soul home. He set it to an old hymn tune.
Kneeling there to pray for me.
And for decades it lived quietly in Southern gospel songbooks, sung at bedsides more than concerts. Then, in 2000, something strange happened. A Coen Brothers movie about escaped convicts in Depression-era Mississippi ended its entire story with this song.
As she clutched me to her breast.
Sung a cappella, high and mournful, by Ralph Stanley. "O Brother, Where Art Thou?" introduced an old-time gospel tune to millions of people who'd never set foot in a Southern church. Suddenly, Angel Band wasn't a forgotten hymn anymore.
For me.
It became shorthand in film and television for exactly one thing: a death handled gently. And because of that soundtrack, an entire generation learned this funeral song from a Hollywood movie.
To see you as in days of childhood.
Before they ever heard it in a church pew. Funny how that works. Sometimes the oldest songs need the strangest doorway back into people's lives. Our next entry didn't need a movie. It became a funeral standard almost by accident, through a tragedy nobody saw coming.
Where my loved ones wait for me.
Number 7. If I Die Young, The Band, Perry.
In the river at dawn, send me away with the words of a...
In 2010, a 20-something singer named Kimberly Perry sat down and wrote a song imagining her own funeral. The sycamore tree, the paper gown, a life cut short before it really started.
Just enough time. If I die young.
She wrote it as a teenager, years before it became a single. It wasn't inspired by a specific death in her family. It was closer to a young songwriter's meditation on mortality, the kind of thing a lot of people write in a journal and never show anyone. If I Die Young
Just enough time, and I'll be wearing...
became the band Perry's breakout single, climbed the country charts, crossed over to pop radio, and earned a Grammy nomination. And then something happened that Kimberly Perry never could have predicted. It stopped being just a song people listened to, and became a song families started playing at actual funerals for young people who really had died too soon.
Never could be severed by the sharp knife of a short life.
That's the part that turns your stomach a little, if you sit with it. A song written as an imaginative exercise became painfully, literally true for grieving families across the country. The songwriter wrote a hypothetical. Real life kept RSVPing. It's a strange kind of power, writing something in your head and having it become someone else's reality. Our next song has that same eerie quality, except this one, the artist admits, was written for someone specific he'd already lost.
For my thoughts, oh no, I'll sell them for $1. They're worth so much more.
Number 6. Who You'd Be Today, Kenny Chesney.
I feel you everywhere I go.
Picture an empty chair at Thanksgiving. A birthday nobody wants to acknowledge out loud. What would they be doing now that nobody says but everybody's thinking? That's the exact feeling Kenny Chesney captured in 2005 with Who You'd Be Today.
Ain't fair, you died too young, like a story that hadn't just begun. But
A slow, aching meditation on a life cut short, and the family left to wonder what it would have looked like if it hadn't been. The song doesn't name a cause of death. It doesn't need to. That vagueness is exactly why it worked for so many different kinds of loss.
who you'd be today.
A car accident, an overdose, a soldier who didn't come home, a child taken too early. Listeners filled in their own grief. Chesney's version climbed the charts in 2006.
Settle down with a family. I wonder what would you need.
But its real second life happened off the charts entirely. In memorial slideshows, in hospice rooms, at gatherings for people the world lost young. Many fans connected it to national tragedies, to soldiers, to any gone too soon story that needed a soundtrack.
Might sound crazy. It ain't fair, you die.
A song built on absence, on the specific ache of a what if, turned out to be exactly what grieving families needed to hear out loud. Our next entry takes that same idea and adds a twist nobody sees coming until the final verse.
God knows how I miss you. All the hell that
Number 5. 3 Wooden Crosses, Randy Travis.
Bus bound for Mexico. One was headed for vacation.
Here's a song that spends 3 verses making you think you already know where it's going, and then flips the entire story in the last 30 seconds. Released in 2002, written by Kim Williams and Doug Johnson, 3 Wooden Crosses tells the story of a bus crash, a farmer, a teacher, a preacher, and a prostitute.
When you go, that farmer left the harvest.
All riding together, all facing the same collision. 3 of them die. 3 wooden crosses go up on the roadside, the kind you still see on American highways marking where someone was lost. And the song spends its runtime building sympathy for each life on that bus, until the final verse.
See the promised land as he lay his blood-stained Bible in that.
Where it reveals which passenger actually survived, and what that survivor did with the rest of their life, because of what the dying woman handed them in her final moment. The reveal is what made it a phenomenon. It won Song of the Year from both the CMA and the ACM, and Randy Travis, an artist who'd already built a career on gospel-adjacent country storytelling,
I guess it's not what you take when you leave this world behind.
turned it into one of the defining story songs of the 2000s. It's a song about a highway tragedy that somehow ends up being about grace and second chances, and what gets passed down from the dying to the living. No wonder it plays at funerals for people who spent their whole lives quietly giving something away.
Who gave this Bible to my mama, who read it to me.
Before we get into the top 4, the ones that genuinely started getting requested by name at funeral homes across the country, if you're the kind of person who wants the real stories behind these songs, not just the surface-level trivia, that's exactly what this channel exists for. Hit subscribe, Every one of these deep dives is basically an act of preserving music history before it fades out of memory completely.
No, it's not what you take when you...
And that only works if people like you stick around for it. Now, the top 4. This is where the songs stop being sad and start being unbearable.
When you go, there are 3 wooden crosses.
Number 4, Whiskey Lullaby, Brad Paisley featuring Alison Krauss.
We appreciate what you did.
We did what we had to.
2 people, 2 addictions, 2 deaths years apart, connected by the same bottle. Written by Bill Anderson and John Randall and released in 2004.
I'll love you forever.
Whiskey Lullaby tells the story of a man who drinks himself to death after being betrayed by the woman he loved. And then, in the second half of the song, that same woman spends the rest of her life drinking herself into the same grave, right beside him. It's brutal in a way country radio almost never allows. No happy ending, no redemption arc. Just 2 people destroyed by the same pain, buried side by side because neither of them could survive it. The music video pushed even further.
Our family.
Visually depicting suicide in a way that got it pulled from some programming blocks because it was simply too dark for daytime rotation. And yet, the song itself won the CMA Award for Vocal Event of the Year and became one of the most gutting duets in the genre's history. Here's what most people miss. This isn't really a song about drinking. It's a song about how grief, left untreated, becomes its own kind of poison. Families who've lost someone to addiction have adopted this song specifically because it doesn't sugarcoat what that loss actually looks like. And if you thought that was as raw as this list gets, the next 3 entries are the reason this video exists at all.
Put 'em out like the burning end of a midnight.
Number 3. Go Rest High on That Mountain, Vince Gill. In May of 1989, country singer Keith Whitley died at 34 years old, the victim of alcohol poisoning after years of struggling publicly with addiction. He and Vince Gill were friends. Gill was devastated. He started writing a song about it almost immediately.
Son, your work on earth is done.
But he couldn't finish it. The grief was too fresh, too close. He set it aside. Then, in 1993, Vince Gill's older brother died, and suddenly the unfinished song about Keith Whitley had a second verse forced into it by a second loss.
The day you left us, we gathered round.
Gill finally completed Go Rest High on That Mountain and released it in 1994, 5 years after he'd started writing it. What happened next turned it into something bigger than a song. It became the song. Families started requesting it by name at funerals across the country.
Work on earth is done.
Fellow artists began performing it live at memorials for people in the industry. Vince Gill himself sang it at George Jones's funeral in 2013, standing at the front of a church, singing the words he'd written about his own grief for another man's. Think about what that actually requires. Writing a song about your own devastating loss, and then being asked, over and over again for decades, to stand up and sing it for other people's devastating losses. Gill has performed this song at funeral after funeral, carrying not just his own grief, but everyone else's. every single time. That's not a songwriter's career, that's a public service. And it's why, if you asked funeral directors across Nashville which song gets requested more than almost any other, this is the name that keeps coming up. Two left, and they might be the two most quietly devastating entries on this entire list. Number 2, He Stopped Loving Her Today, George Jones.
She told him you forget in time.
It took George Jones's producer years to convince him this song was even worth recording. Jones reportedly called it too depressing and thought nobody would want to hear it. His own producer, Billy Sherrill, had to talk him into finishing it. Written by Bobby Braddock and Curly Putman,
By his way.
He Stopped Loving Her Today tells the story of a man who spent his entire life loving a woman who left him and only stops loving her the day he dies. The final verse reveals the funeral itself, the narrator watching her walk past the casket, wearing white, while he lies there, finally, truly free of a love that never let him go.
First time I'd seen.
It was released in 1980, after multiple delays and re-recordings, and it became one of the most decorated songs in country music history, winning CMA Song of the Year in back-to-back years, something almost no other song has done. Critics and musicians alike have called it one of the greatest country recordings ever made.
He stopped loving her today.
And here's the layer most casual listeners never catch. The song's narrator dies still loving someone who left him, and the funeral becomes the only place his devotion is finally, fully acknowledged. It's a song about a man's love outliving his own dignity, his own bitterness, even his own life. It's not written as a funeral song,
And it kept running through my mind.
it's written as a song where the funeral is the punchline. And somehow, that's exactly what made it so unbearably fitting for real ones. When Jones himself died in 2013, this song played at services and tributes across the country. The ultimate, almost unbearable irony of a singer being sent off by the song that already contained his own funeral scene. Which brings us to number 1. If you've been to more than a handful of country funerals in your life, you probably already know which song is coming.
And soon they'll carry home.
Number 1, The Dance, Garth Brooks. Before he was the best-selling solo artist in American history, before the stadium tours and the record deals, Garth Brooks released a song in 1990.
No, the world was a ride, but how could I have known?
That almost didn't happen. Songwriter Tony Arata wrote The Dance as a quiet meditation on love and loss. The idea that if you knew, ahead of time, exactly how much pain a relationship would eventually cause you,
Could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss.
would you still choose to have it at all? Garth Brooks heard it, and something about it stopped him cold. He fought to record it his way. Slow, sparse, almost entirely piano and vocal.
I held everything.
Against a label that wanted something more radio-friendly. He won that fight. The Dance became his signature song, the one he still closes almost every concert with.
Fall. He used to say,
Decades into his career. But its real second life happened away from the arenas. The music video paired the lyrics with tributes to public figures who died doing what they loved. And from there, something remarkable happened.
The way it all would go.
Families across the country began adopting the song for their own private losses, hearing in it exactly the question they were already asking themselves. Was it worth it, loving someone you knew you'd eventually have to lose?
I couldn't miss the pain.
That's the whole secret of this entire list, distilled into one song. Every entry we've covered today is really asking the same question in a different costume. Is love worth the grief that eventually comes for it?
The way it all would end. The way it all.
The dance just asks it the most plainly and answers it the most gently. The song doesn't say yes. It doesn't say no. It just says, I'm glad I got the chance. That's why, at funeral after funeral, in small town churches and big city chapels, this is the song that closes it out.
Garth Brooks.
Not because it explains grief, because it forgives you for having loved somebody enough to feel it. 10 songs, 10 different griefs, and underneath every single one of them, the same quiet agreement, that the pain was the price of the love.
Looking back on the memory of.
And almost everybody would pay it again. If one of these songs has already played at a funeral in your life, you know exactly what I mean. And if it hasn't yet, someday it probably will. That's country music's oldest secret. It was never really about the honky-tonks. It was always about the goodbyes.